Hey guys, so in previous lectures we have seen objectives of UNFCC, that is United Nations Framework for Climate Change, that why it was built, and IPCC reports, that what are the limitations of that report, that targets were not set, and also we have seen that what was the need for this United Nations. So there were 3 to 4 meetings, namely Kyoto Protocol, then before that Montreal Protocol, and etc. So today we are going to see principles of UNFCC, it is United Nations Framework for Climate Change. So what are the main principles? So we will discuss main principles. So in the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, the principles were formed. So we will discuss main principles. So principle number 3. So that is the right to development. So the right to development must be fulfilled so as equitably meet developmental and environmental needs of present and future generation. So the development and environment, so both needs need to be meant for present and future. So that is the principle. Then the next is principle number 6. So that is the principle calls for priority to special situation and needs of developing countries. So to meet the needs of the developing countries, particularly the least developed and the most environmentally vulnerable. So which countries which are not developed? So what are their priorities? So that need to be called in this principle, developing and underdeveloped. Then principle number 7, that is states shall cooperate in a spirit of global partnership to conserve, protect, protect and restore the health and integrity of Earth's ecosystem. So, in view of different contributions to global environmental degradation, so states have common but differentiated responsibilities. So, developed countries acknowledge the responsibility. So, developed countries will acknowledge the responsibility that they bear in international pursuit of sustainable development in view of pressures their societies place on the global environment and of technologies and financial resources they command. So uh, the that is the goal of developed countries. Then principle number 12. So states should cooperate supportive supportive and open international economic system. So economic system the economic system should be supportive and open, that would lead to economic growth and sustainable development in all countries. So all countries need to be sustainable to meet their requirements, to better address the problems of environmental degradation. So trade policy measures for environmental purposes should not constitute a means of arbitrary or unjustifiable discrimination or disguised restriction on international trade. So, unilateral actions to deal with environmental challenges outside the jurisdiction of importing country should be avoided. So, no unilateral actions should be done. Then environmental measures addressing, so environmental environmental measures addressing transboundary or global environmental problems should as far as possible be based on international consensus. That is, the international environmental problems should be resolved with the uh, international interest. That is the principle number 12. Then 15 principle. So principle number 15 says that in order to protect the environment, precautionary approach. So there is precautionary approach shall be widely applied by the states according to their capabilities where there are threats of severe irreversible damage. Lack of scientific certainty shall not be used as a reason for postponing cost effective measures to prevent environmental degradation. Then, so these are the main principles of the UNFCC is 3, 6, 7, 12, 15. So these are the main principles of United Nations framework for climate change. Now we will see the COP, that is Conference of Parties. It is Conference of Parties. It is COP. So several institutions and bodies work within the framework of the convention. So this include those established by the convention. So the conference of parties, this COP to the convention, the subsidiary bodies, that is SB, the bureau and the secretariat. So they also include other bodies established by the COP. So committees, working groups, expert bodies in accordance. So all these bodies combined will be the conference of parties. So these are the parties. So climate change process revolves around the annual sessions of the COP. So it will revolve around this annual sessions. That annually one session need to be done. So which bring together all countries that are parties of the convention, defines the COP as the supreme body of the convention. So COP is the supreme body of the convention. This is supreme. So as it is the highest decision making authority, so following rules and responsibilities are there of COP. So what are the roles and responsibilities of the COP? So we'll see one by one. So first is to examine the parties' commitments in the light of convention's objective. So convention's objectives are met or not. So that need to be examined. New scientific findings and experience gained in implementing climate change policies. So so new scientific findings and experience gained in implementing the climate change policies. So what experience has been gained? So that need to be addressed. Then promote. So second objective is promote and facilitate exchange of information. So this is most important, that the information needs to be exchanged on measures adopted by parties to address the climate change and its effect. So information exchange is very much important. And third, facilitate the coordination of measures adopted by parties. So facilitate the coordination. So for coordination of measures adopted by the parties to address climate change and its effect, if requested to do so by two or more parties. So coordination need to be adopted. Then fourth point is to promote. So to promote and guide. So to promote and guide the development and refinement of comparable methodologies for activities related to the implementing the convention, such as preparing of inventories, greenhouse gases emissions, removal and evaluating the effectiveness of measures to limit the emissions and enhance removals. So this is the main goal. Then fifth point, fifth is fifth is to assess the implementation of the convention by parties. To assess, so to assess the implementation, that what they were implemented. So to check, so the effects of the measures taken by them and progress made towards achieving the ultimate objective of the convention. So this is the fifth point. The sixth point is consider and adopt reports. So consider and adopt reports on implementation of the convention and ensure their publication. Then seventh, make recommendations on any matters necessary for the implementation of the convention. So need to make recommendations on any matter that can help in implementing the convention. And then eighth point, eighth point is seek. They can seek to mobilize financial resources. Seek to mobilize financial financial resources. So if any resources need to be mobilized financially, so they can seek that. Then review. So this is also important, that review reports submitted by its subsidiaries. So we need to review the reports submitted by the subsidiary bodies and provide guidance to them and provide guidance to them. Then 10th, exercise such other functions as are required to achieve the objective of the convention. So to exercise such other functions. So functions. So such other functions required to achieve the objective of the convention, as well as other functions assigned to the conference of parties under the convention. So just these are the main roles and responsibilities of the COP, that is Conference of the Parties. So now we'll see the overview of Conference of Parties session held. So various COP sessions held. So what are the meetings that held in which year and what was the goal? So we'll start with 1995. So each year the sessions was held. So 1995, this was in Berlin, Germany. So COPs agreed that the commitments in the convention were inadequate. So they were inadequate for the meeting and the convention objective. So in a decision known as Berlin Mandate, they agreed to establish a process to negotiate strengthened commitments for developed countries. So a new commitments need to be done. So that was the conclusion of the year 1995. Then in 1996, in Geneva Convention, Switzerland. So here the Geneva Ministerial Declaration was noted but not adopted. So here Geneva, a decision on guidelines for the national communications to be prepared by developing countries was adopted. So also discussed quantified emissions limitations and reduction objectives for different parties and an acceleration of the Berlin Mandate talks so that commitments could be adopted at the COP3. So this was COP2. So in COP3 the commitments can be adopted. So in 1997, so that is Kyoto. So the Kyoto Protocol was adopted in 1997. So by the consensus. So, so in this Kyoto protocol, so with consensus, which includes legally binding emission targets for developed countries and parties for six major greenhouse gases, which are to be reached by the period of 2008 and 12. So issues for further international considerations include developing rules for emissions trading and methodological work in relation to forest sinks. So in this protocol, the targets were the binding emission targets were accepted with consensus. Important. Then the fourth COP. So in 1998, so this was in Argentina. So the this was Buenos Aires Plan of Action. Buenos Aires Plan of Action, focusing on strengthening the financial mechanism, the development and transfer of technologies, and maintaining the momentum in the relation to the Kyoto Protocol was adopted. So, how we can focus and strengthen the finance, that is money mechanism, the development and transfer of technologies. So, how we can transfer technologies and maintain the momentum, so to keep the momentum on going. So that was the goal. Then in 1999 in Bonn, Germany, so focus on the adoption of the guidelines for the preparation of national communications by annexure 1 countries, capacity building, transfer of technologies. So all the things discussed in last year and flexible mechanism. So it was primarily a technical meeting. I did not reach any major conclusion. So it was a technical meeting. So no conclusions were made. Then in 2000, so in Netherlands, and in 2001. So this was in part 1 and 2, Netherlands and Germany again. So consensus was finally reached in so-called Bonn agreements. So Bonn agreements. So Bonn agreements work was also completed on a number of detailed decisions based on these agreements, including capacity building for developing countries with economics transition, decision on several issues, notably mechanisms, land use change, and forestry and compliance remain the outstanding. So this was in the Bonn agreements. So then in 2000 again in 2001, so 2001 and Morocco. So the Marek. So so from 2001, so that was Marek Ministerial Declaration. We will discuss in the next lecture. So from 2001 to the coming years to the present year. So each and every year, what the meetings were discussed. So we'll discuss in the next lecture. So hope to see you next lecture. So thank you very much.